Our first presenter here is an academic, a professor, a doctor, with many decades of experience in research. Please allow me to welcome Dr. Gill Livingston.
Good morning. Thank you so much for inviting me here today to talk to you. I know lots of people in the room, and then there are many others that I don't. So, as you said, I'm really excited to be here. It's a fantastic care home, a fantastic organisation, and it's great to be part of it. Research is something that a lot of people think isn't very important, but research is absolutely the most important thing. It's the cornerstone of what we all do. The only reason why we know what is good and helpful to do is to do research. And it's as we go forward, we try to do more and more research. And I've done some of the work that's already been listed. I'm not going to talk about very much of it, and I'm going to continue doing work with care homes and to research to try and help our families, our patients, and probably ourselves in generations to come. It's incredibly important, and it's great to see Nightingale Hammerson leading the way. I've always been very interested in this work. I think intellectually and emotionally it's the most satisfying work. And years after I started, both my parents developed dementia separately, rare sorts of dementias, making me wonder whether if you need to have a psychiatrist as a daughter to get the right diagnosis. But one of them went in a care home in Glasgow, and the other came after my father died. We brought my mother to London, where she had 3 children and 10 grandchildren, so that she could have lots of visits, and was in a care home here. So I am personally, as well as professionally, very much invested. And I'd like to say to you that some of our research has found that things which I was sure, and many of my colleagues were sure, worked, did not work. And that's really important too. It's to prevent us giving drugs or psychosocial interventions which are ineffective, which are a waste of resources and don't help. So not everything helps, and it's really important to try and find out what does, and to have methodology to try and find out. So that's me, and I put my Twitter handle there because I was just speaking to Viv at the back of the room, and her achievements are running marathons. My achievement is being followed on Twitter, so anybody who doesn't, please do. It's a lot less energetic. So here's some of the team that I've worked with to do some of the research that I'm going to talk to you about with quality of life in dementia. So this is, as all research is, it's a joint effort, and we work together. So I'm going to talk about what is quality of life to start off with. And I think quality of life is one of these things that everybody knows what it is. If you say, what I want is quality of life, everyone understands what you mean, and nobody knows what it is. Nobody can define it. And so we all know it, and none of us can say what it is and how to define it. So I'm going to talk a bit about the concept of quality of life to begin with. And then about the place of quality of life in care homes, how it's measured by whom and what affects it. And really my thesis is that for people in care homes, the most important thing is quality of life. And it's really, really important to know what makes a difference. But let me start off by thinking about it conceptually. And while it seems obvious, I want you to understand that traditionally doctors, and I'm a doctor, I see patients and always have thought about how treatments work in terms of this, whatever they're addressing, the target, but I've not thought about quality of life particularly. That's changed over the last decade, but it's quite possible to make a person, particularly with an older person, to make a symptom better and make quality of life worse. And it's really important that you can think about people in the round and their quality of life. So let me start off by talking about successful ageing, which is another way people talk about quality of life. So I'm quite competitive, and I can see that I might fail at ageing. Might be an unsuccessful ager. So what successful ageing is traditionally defined as is having, being fully physically and cognitively well. And you'll be unsurprised to know that the best correlate, if you have huge surveys of successful ageing, is being younger, thereby suggesting that it's a totally ridiculous concept, because the older you are, the less likely you are to be what we call a successful ageing. And what I think is that this idea of being a successful ageing excludes the impaired and the ill. It's a deficit-based idea, and it takes away from the idea that it's possible to have a good life when you're ill, which is clearly possible. And so older people may be living successfully despite an impairment, and often are. So I want to talk about quality of life, which is an alternative model to successful ageing, where you can have a positive attitude despite poor health. You can have resilience. And just to say that older adults, just as Helen said, just the often stress, social engagement and positive outlook as being more important than physical health. So quality of life, what is it? And I'm going to leave you more in doubt at the end of